Catching up with Sarah and Ginny, fueled by laughter and insights aplenty. Curiosity, connection, and learning that sticks. Real talk, real lives with practical tips. Welcome to Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. Come on in.
Welcome to another episode of Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. That was very calm, Sarah, wasn't it? A very welcome to another episode. And shall I go through my calm phase, Sarah?
Well, no, what I like is that it wasn't calm until we press record. So I love the fact that you're like, it's been very calm, hasn't it? It's like, not 2 seconds ago, Ginny, but there we go. There.
Well,
the story of our lives, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I've put the lipstick on. I'm ready, Sarah. I'm ready.
Well, I've nearly finished my soup, which I'm having a cup of soup, and I've got some mini cheddars dropped into it because I found it the other day because I accidentally dropped a mini cheddar in. Hey, we're going to have a whole podcast about actually these things that happen incidentally, and then we go, oh, actually, yeah. So I really quite like that. But again, I have very odd food tastes. So a whole nother story.
I love that idea of happening upon alternatives. So one day we were having meatballs and pasta, and I didn't have any tomato sauce. So I was like, we'll have some gravy.
Oh, a very IKEA. That's a very Swedish IKEA thing.
Yeah. And now that's what we have. We have meatballs with pasta with gravy. Nice. And, it's kind of like, what is the norm? What should be the norm? Let's break the norm with your
Let's
cup of
say
soup.
There is no norm.
There is
no norm. I think that's the way forward. There is no norm.
I feel like we should open this up to kind of an audience chat. Like, tell us about, new food that you've happened upon by mistake or necessity.
Yeah, by dropping your mini cheddar into your chicken cup of soup. What happens there?
Why not? Why not? I mean, I would say, what is your wow moment? That could have been your wow moment, but have you got another one, Sarah? Is there another one in there?
That could have been my wow moment, because if you know me well, you also know that when I have my scrambled eggs in the morning, obviously not at home because I don't tend to make myself scrambled eggs, but if I'm staying somewhere, I'll put jam with the scrambled eggs. And that's another kind of interesting combination of taste. And the wow moment about that was when I went to stay with my mum, probably about 3 years ago somewhere, maybe longer. And she did the same thing, which I didn't know she did. And I'm just going to leave that there because that's not actually the wow moment. But yes, I think there's a lot of whole episode that can be done around the whole thing to do with the combinations of flavors and the combinations of taste. So, completely aside from that, my wow moment, again, is about reading. It's at the moment year of reading, so I think that's probably why there's a huge amount of focus on it. And I'm doing a lot of work around it, particularly now. But the whole thing around the importance, I think my wow moment is around the importance of those little small drip routines, regular routines, regular things that we put into the timetable that we do across a period of time, the impact of those. Because I have been working with quite a lot of trusts at the moment, developing their literacy offer and developing their literacy kind of opportunities and experiences, and then obviously outcomes for their young people. And one of the big things I talk about is that importance of the regular routines, the good, best habits, as a good friend of mine would talk about. And it's that real importance of seeing the impact. And so it's seeing the impact of changes, little changes in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and getting them to happen regularly, and actually the outcome of that. And so recently I've just been to kind of look at, obviously been working with schools over a period of time, and look at kind of like, right, where are we now? We're about to head into the final term of the year. What impact have we seen over some of the things? And some of the things are just reading, those really key readers or those really vulnerable learners, maybe reading every day in a set time with them, that we have a really clear structure with the whole fluency, really looking at fluency. That's something else that's come out of all of the work as well, is the you know, I'm a big fan of like rap and Christian Foley's work, and of actually, you know, fluency for a reason. And that's the whole thing with the English hubs at the moment, is actually making sure that whatever we're doing around fluency is learners understand why they're re-practicing, why they're rereading something. And when you make things explicit, when you're doing it regularly, the impact is, for some of those learners now, schools are reporting they've seen such a change in their attitudes to reading, their engagement with reading, them wanting to do it, but more importantly, what they can read. And
Yes.
and I think in my PhD, I was a real advocate of, you've got to keep doing it. We've got to do it for a systematic period of time, regularly, a similar kind of consistent approach so they know what to expect, really clear of what engages them, making sure they're enjoying it. And if it doesn't work, slightly changing it. You know, if they're not interested in that text or that passage or that bit of information, swap it round, get them involved. What would they like to read? What would they like to reread? What would they like to do at the end of it? If it's a set of jokes, who would they like to perform them to? If it's a song, a rap, how would they like to have that engagement? And I think probably what's happened is that I've realised the outcome is it makes a difference. Is those young people are, you know, right from the age, some of the learners are 6, some of them are just entering secondary school or as their first year in secondary. The staff have seen and the families have seen a real difference in terms of those learners wanting to engage in reading. And it's those small little changes of in the habits of what we're doing. And I think I'm a bit excited about it, Ginny. Sorry, because in the midst of all of this, I've also seen it with my son. And I think
Ah,
I
in
talk a lot about
action.
him. I talk a lot about him. I've seen it in the classrooms. I've had loads of, you know, of schools having kind of feedback around stuff. And I knew it would work. I knew there would be a change. I knew there would be an impact. But to hear that it has made a difference, to hear that having those small little regular bits of practice, which are having that impact, was a real wow. It was a real wow moment around, we just have to be really clear about what it is we want to achieve. We have to be really clear about what difference something's going to make and what things we can do to get that outcome. If we want them reading more, what can we do to make it so that they want to be engaged, but so that they're getting a chance to hear you read, to hear themselves read, to hear their peers read, to hear reading on a story tape, to hear reading in a song, to have all of that information together on a regular basis in a way that enables them to then go, I can do this, and start to just get that. I always kind of talk about that cortisol rush of, I can do it. I'm a reader. Oh, and that's the little switch. That's the change. So there you go. Long-winded wow moment, Ginny. But
It all comes back to, you said, habits, consistency, structure, and having things readily available and not changing things all the time. You know, as an individual, I like to know my timetable for the day. I like to know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and to have that for all children, because we are talking about all children, to have that for all children, it makes so much sense. And if we're not careful, we can, it's not quite chase the latest fad, but it's like, as my wonderful Yorkshire father would say, calming the job down, as
yeah,
we always say,
yeah,
having those resources that are high quality, easily accessible. You know, I was that teacher, and I've said before, who had that classroom full of books that had appeared, people had kindly donated them, but the bookshelf just got bigger and bigger and bigger. We couldn't fit the books in. We couldn't see what books were what. We didn't have a systematic system, never mind for the children. But for me as the class teacher, if I wanted to find a particular book, finding it, I gave up. If I was like, actually, I want to find that book by so-and-so,
yeah,
where is it? And I think in many ways, it is stripping it back, isn't it?
yeah.
To to the texts and the systems that work.
And seeing the stuff that we do every day already that maybe isn't working. And there's a lot of stuff around that, the whole cast reading or the kind of like quiet reading or for a lot of young people, the way that it currently isn't working. And it's like, let's have a look at some of those learners that it might not be working for, but actually let's just look at that half an hour that we might be giving over to that and how we can, that multimodal stuff, but how we can actually engage some of our young people a bit more so that they are part of that, so that they feel ownership rather than dread of that part of
Yes.
the day, because
I
a
mean,
lot do.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure I've told this story before about an individual who I was teaching, and we had that quiet time of reading, and I went up. I noticed that he had not gone anywhere further in the book, and he wasn't reading, but he was trying to appear to be reading. And I said to him, "Tell me all your ways that you pretend to read." And he was telling me, and he said, "Sometimes, Mrs. Bootman, I turn the book upside down to see if anybody notices." And I was like, how shocking is that? That a child had learned strategies to appear to be reading.
Ooh, yeah,
No, and then one of my
yeah,
other irks,
yeah,
an irk is when I'm reading, I love to get to the end of a chapter or kind of the end of a page at least. And we say, or we can say, and everybody stop reading now. And once again, putting ourselves in the place of the children
yeah,
and go, well, I wouldn't like that. So
no,
let's think of a system.
yeah,
So there is a countdown.
yeah.
So we will be finishing in 10 minutes or whatever, so that you can get to a page in your book that is a fitting place for you to finish.
Finish. And if you want to, if you say, well, if it means you finish before that 10 minutes, then, maybe they've got a little book on the table that they can draw a picture of something to do with the
Yeah,
book.
yeah,
Do you know,
yeah.
you've just reminded me then, Jenny, you've got a great countdown timer, which I need to order. But actually, anything like that, I hadn't, that hadn't even crossed my mind about
Yeah,
the fact that when they say to stop, because actually a lot of the children and young people I'm working with are the ones that are pretending anyway. So they doesn't matter when they stop. So
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
able to access the amount of print that might be there, the pressure of everyone doing it at the same time. And that's not necessarily maybe how they read. They might read, upside down, or they might, and not that that's what we should be facilitating, but we should just be aware that it's going to look different with each learner and in each classroom, and they're not going to do it in the same way, but that's okay. And I think that's great when you say, "Tell me all the ways that you don't read," because even that is quite, even
brilliant.
bringing that out too. Right, everyone, let's all talk about this. Things that, or ways, and maybe even not about reading, ways that we're trying to demonstrate we're doing something when we're not really. Um, I mean, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, Ginny, in meetings, show me ways that you show that you're listening when you're not really, or yeah, but all of those kind of things, we all do it, but normalizing it
Yeah,
as
yeah,
like,
and
oh,
it,
that's quite a funny
yeah,
thing that you do that with
yeah,
turning your book upside down.
yeah,
And we can
yeah,
talk about it because we're all humans and we all have these emotions at different times,
yeah.
and it's okay. Oh,
Fabulous,
got a bit
fabulous.
deep there, didn't
Wow,
it? Sorry.
that was. So my song is, so I've been introduced to a new band in my life through my friend's dad, actually. We were discussing songs and he introduced me to The Seekers, who
Okay,
are
yep.
1960s band, and I have been listening
Introduce me.
uninterruptedly to The
Mm.
Seekers since then. And I'd like to teach the world to sing.
Ah,
And I think from a Zen point of view, it really does kind of epitomize where we would hope to be. And I think getting everybody to join up, understand where we're coming from, having a system that reflects what's happening in classrooms with teachers, alongside the whole of the SEND system. So yeah, I'd like to teach the world to sing is my my gift today, Sarah.
gifts to, and I think I was thinking that you might have started to sing that actually, Ginny. Then just the way that you kind of moved, then I thought she's going to start singing it. She's going to start giving us a
Only
bar.
live. We only do singing live, Sarah.
Oh, so when we have our next live event, okay?
Yeah.
I shall be
Yeah.
challenging you to do that then, Ginny. Although
I
I'm
will
not
take that
sure.
on.
I mean, I
I will
don't think I even need to challenge you, really. I don't
No.
even know why I said that. I need to challenge you. There is no challenge. Oh no, I love that, and it is. It's that whole thing about with songs and that kind of the way they make you feel and the things they make you think. I have seen some fabulous stuff shared recently online again about song lyrics and just the power of them purely because there's so much discussion now around them. And I think it was Marie. There's a lady who I hope to get on here actually, who shares lots about reading, particularly on LinkedIn. And she was sharing, or it might have been John Biddell actually, sharing lessons around song lyrics. And it was Harry Styles, one of Harry Styles' songs. And there were the lyrics. And I was reading it on the post, and I didn't know some of those words. And actually, in our next episode, I have got, when I do the song, I have got a song which has got a title that I didn't realize that was the title. And as Andy, my partner, always says, he says, "We always sing the wrong words anyway. So I don't know why you even bother looking at the words or the title. You just make them up, even if you don't know them."
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it was just interesting seeing the words because actually it is that whole point around our young people now might be singing these songs, and then when they know the words as well and the meaning, it adds that greater depth to it. And it's such a valid and important way into literacy. And the more I think about it and the more I see it, the more I'm like, wow, why is it taking so long actually for this to become such a thing again? Because all those years ago it was. So on that note, I have my book. And it's actually not a book. It's a set of comics and magazines because since the National Literacy Trust extravaganza, their wonderful conference and the fabulous speakers that we had there, I've started to look at comics. I've just and actually, I was waiting in the post office queue yesterday, and I just looked down while I was waiting, and it was the whole. I did think that as well. They were like down below somewhere, but it was the whole row of all the different comics that you could have and all the different magazines. Beano was actually kind of forefront as well, which I hadn't kind of looked at in a lot of years. And so I did have a little flick through that. But I had a look through the National Geographic magazine there. And for kids, it was stunning. So my kind of contribution today in terms of reading material really is the importance of comics and books. And Storytime was a brilliant magazine. It was given out at the conference that I've just started to read again as well. Brilliant magazine, but also the Phoenix. So I've got one here in front of me, and I don't know if you know the Phoenix. It's again, I've got a 10-year-old son, so it's probably one of those kind of things that I would have more of them around. But it was where the Dog Man books came from. It's the same author who contributes to this as Dog Man, but it's again the power of these magazines that they just provide that opportunity. And I think Teresa Kremen's quote on again on LinkedIn recently was about modelling.
Yes.
I had to look up what it meant.
I did.
Did you know
I
what?
did too.
Did
I did.
you?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
never
But I got
heard. Yeah.
confused because because when she was talking about being mildly,
Yeah.
I and someone else brought this up on LinkedIn. I got it confused with being mardy, and that means. And so I was like, oh, and it
Oh,
really focused me in. Yeah, mardling, love it.
yeah. Go on then. Can you give your thing about modelling? What the definition?
Mardling. Well,
Yeah.
to me, oh, you've got me on the spot here. To me, to mardle, I mardled in Teresa Kremen's session. So it's to have a connection and a communication about a shared book, which in our case was a magazine, and we were chatting, and it was just a lovely, free-flowing conversation with someone I didn't know, but then I got that connection. So I think I mardled.
So that got me thinking about modelling and all of that. And I was thinking about, actually, in particular, it was the Phoenix at the time, because it came out at a time that probably a year that I not came out, but at the time that I was really aware of it, was when the Dogman books were really popular,
Yes.
and they'd come kind of from the magazine. And within a year 4 classes that I'd been kind of visiting, and also within my son's class, they were the magazines that all the kids were interested in. So they were actually modelling around and talking about the and I thought the power of that. We forget. And actually, what's happening now since the conference is that people are sharing, like, some of the books that they might have been reading when they were younger, and loads of people are jumping on saying, "I remember that," and "Oh, that was so powerful." I shared Mandy magazine from like 1986, a cover. I think at the time it was 18p, which also made me and I just started looking. I gave you a thing you could flick through the edition, and I just remembered all of those things. I used to swap it with the girl that lived down the road, Jeanette, if you're listening. And actually, it is that opportunity. So I think that was my book, that power of comics and magazines, and just that chance to just a little bit more informal way of modelling.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's trickier unless it's a formal book group or that kind of. Whereas, all the Fun Day Times, when that was kind of, the little, but that opportunity of little snippets, the little cartoon in newspapers that you can just have a little, "Oh, did you see this? Is this funny?"
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, I love it. To model or not to model? Well, it
Model,
isn't really
not
a
to
question, is it?
No.
Because it is
Got
to
to
model.
model. Yeah.
To model. Let's model on.
We'll model on.
Keep calm and model.
Nice.
There was just too many
There's
of
going to be
these.
loads of merchandise now. Trees are coming, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, once again, just kind of great to chat and to learn so much. As we always say, it's always a pleasure.
Never a chore. Thank you, Ginny. Thanks for joining us this time on Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny.
Always a pleasure and never a chore.